Rick and Morty comic, issue 47. We started with Summer probably overreacting to something because she's a typical teenage girl, saying that there's no justice in the world and she wants to die. Rick, of course, says she's right that there's usually no justice. Morty shows surprisingly great chemistry with him by not scolding him for being a downer, and it says if you want justice, you have to go with them all. Summer's upset because he cancelled her favorite show. Why doesn't she just ask to see the next season in a parallel universe with interdimensional cable? I probably thought of this right away because I've read the comic before and remembered it actually happening. I like that she was written to try to explain why she liked that show, which was extra effort of the writer. Her show was inclusive, funny, and all the characters wanted to kiss each other. Beth lampshades that Summer was being whiny about something not that tragic, and warns her that one of these days her histrionics are going to be for something truly tragic, and she's not going to feel like putting down her bottle of wine Sudoku book to run up to her. Summer ignores her mother's lack of pity and just continues complaining about what happened. At least we got to learn that Beth plays Sudoku, so that's a hobby she has. Rick, of course, says that nothing good lasts on TV longer than a season or two because most people are idiots, and only lukewarm, boring garbage gets long episode runs. At least he's sympathizing with her in the sense that he assumes her show is good instead of thinking she's an idiot. Why doesn't Rick immediately offer to show her another season of her show from another universe? I know I'd look for those if I had interdimensional cable, if only to see another season of Sadie M or Cora. Jerry tries to come up with a smart idea for a change, because when Summer keeps whining, he asks Rick to give her a pill or potion. Rick surprisingly doesn't call him morally shady for suggesting this, and instead says that Beth has a whole cabinet full of calm down pills, and suggests that as a solution, even though obviously you shouldn't take other people's medication because it's not meant for your body in particular. You'd think a genius would know this. Jerry says he wants a permanent solution, and he says he doesn't want Summer lobotomized, but something like it. Rick says he'll only do it if he lets some cannon shoot him into a volcano. Hopefully he's saying that because he'd want revenge against him. After Rick rants that his time is too valuable to do what Jerry wants, Morty excites him by turning on interdimensional cable. Morty's smart enough to come up with the idea that there has to be a dimension where Summer's show wasn't cancelled. It's good that Summer appreciates this. And it's nice that Morty gets to be the one with the smart idea. But how did he come up with this and carry it out and not Rick? But it shows how considerate he can be. And he'd be more sympathetic if he had more moments like this. A lot of time when Morty comes up with a smart idea that's also compassionate, maybe Rick did come up with it and he just didn't care enough to suggest it. Well, Morty cares enough to say it. Beth fortunately says that it was thoughtful, and he's bashful about it. We see a blue alien say that he hopes the red one is ready for the main event because it could be the most physical, bloody fight in the history of the BFC. I love that weird looking aliens like this have names like John. That's just silly. But at the same time, with the universe being so ridiculously big, it's not like it's impossible. He asks them to list their competitors, and it's revealed that the competitors are babies. Rick's the only one who likes to fight, while everyone else is horrified. So, wouldn't people in the Sonic universe find Chow Karate to be just as horrifying? I know Rick's been portrayed as a jerk a lot, but I still find it hard to believe that he likes this. Beth begs Morty to change the channel. I guess he waited so long because he didn't want to get Rick mad. Summer says she thinks she's going to be sick, probably because the baby called Bonebreaker lived up to his name. I guess the reason this kind of show is legal was that, well, one, it's actually just a work of fiction in universe and it's a cross-the-line twice adult show, not a real competition with real people. Maybe the competitors are all CGI. Or, it's legal because the babies are the offspring of prisoners, and that's the legal punishment to them. It's on an alien planet, there's tons of different ways crimes can be punished. Or the competitors are all of alien species that are discriminated against on that planet, so nobody cares. And the comic's good enough that I feel like suspending my disbelief with stuff like this. I mean, I'm 8 pages in, I've mostly been complimenting it. They change the channel and look at some identical aliens staring at each other on chairs. Summer finally complains that this isn't her show, which she should have complained earlier, but I guess she was just as curious about the show as everyone else. Rick says that he wants to see where this is going. Then one of the aliens gets yellow eyes and turns to the camera, and says he's been waiting for Rick Sanchez. So, how? The TV would only be able to tune into fictional shows. How is he able to? Was the TV signal intercepted by these aliens? Anyways, Rick says it's a trap. There's a flash of light from the TV, and he reminds us how smart he is because he thought to be prepared for home invaders. He tells the house to execute a security protocol called Tartarus. I like the Greek name. The brief flash of light deactivated his security measures. How? The lights in the house are still on, so it wasn't an EMP. And all the time that the alien was taking with telling Rick this, Rick could have shot the alien with the ray gun. He does do that in the next panel though, but they activate force fields, so never mind. They would have activated the force field if Rick reached into his pocket, even if he was trying to interrupt one of them. Rick keeps shooting the force field, I guess out of desperation. He shows racism against the Zepthurians, saying that they're famous for being bloodthirsty monsters. Okay, but wouldn't humans be just as bad? There's plenty of humans that are like that. How could these aliens possibly be worse? For all we know, it just happens that the only Zepthurians that have become famous outside their planet are like that. Rick's called out on being a jerk too. Then he gets forcibly floated upwards and shouts out in pain as I'm waiting for the aliens to explain what problem they have with him in particular. Because there's a lot of bad things he's done, and these guys came out of nowhere. Most of his family gets made to stay still, and it turns out these guys just want his time travel technology. Wouldn't they start by looking in the garage? Why did they even talk to him at all? I guess they only managed to locate his house by somehow tracking his TV signal when he tuned into their live show. And so they had to materialize in his living room. But you'd think one of them would run towards the garage immediately. Maybe it makes sense that they all assumed his time travel technology was hidden somewhere no one could find it or access it, rather than just being in a box of time travel stuff in the garage, in the same place as every other thing he made. He plays convincingly dumb about having time travel technology when we know he does. Though it's possible that the box of time travel stuff is really just a meta reference to the writers mostly keeping time travel ideas on the shelf, and don't actually have time travel stuff in it. They still used it once though. Rick says he won't do anything he doesn't want to do. Never mind that his family's in danger. And this could get them killed along with him. Though maybe he doesn't care if he can just wake up in a clone body and go replace him with another family anyways. Or make clones of them. But still, he always cares about Morty. Somehow Morty remains chipper at this and says the one time he asked Rick to pass the salt and he told him to get longer arms. He really has faith in Rick to save them. Rick would have a better justification if he said that he doesn't trust these aliens not to horribly abuse time travel technology, and so for the greater good, it's better for them all to die. But they find it in his garage eventually, so that'd be a stupid sacrifice even if he did think that. Morty gets grabbed to be used as leverage, and Rick pretends he doesn't care, saying that he's got 3 more Mortys he's been keeping on backup just in case. And we actually see he's not bluffing. He's keeping 3 identical Mortys in a basement and they're playing cards with each other. Well, it's better than them fighting, like in the end of the Pock and Morty's arc. I guess he's in charge of keeping them fed, like with an automatic feeder machine that generates... But you'd think Morty would have seen them use the bathroom eventually. Maybe there's a bathroom in the basement? Like a portal that sends us to another dimension? I assume they're pocket Mortys, or clone Mortys. Clone Mortys would make more sense. So that's why they're going along with this boring, depressing life. Still, I don't like this because it came out of nowhere and it's depressing. And more importantly, I don't like this because logically he just keep the backup Mortys in clone vats. Not have to put up with keeping them fed and entertained and hidden because they're awake. He has a spare parts Morty, wouldn't he be kept in a clone vat? So that, like, unconscious the whole time? Was one of those spare parts? The alien says that there are other ways of getting Rick to do what he wants. But if he had the ability to control his mind, he'd have done so by now. Rick says he can't be tortured into it because his entire life is pain. And then he explains that he can't be threatened because he's got everything backed up in a dozen clones of his that his mind would be uploaded into. And they all have better knees. Maybe this isn't C-137 Rick, because Rick and the show completely gave up on the whole Project Phoenix thing because of the Tiny Rick fiasco. Yet another reason that the Rick Infinity Crisis story was completely pointless and stupid. You're gonna have stories with alternate Ricks anyways. Though he could just be lying here. Then he says in front of his family that he'd be able to get another family if he wants. This story is about showing what a badass Rick is, I guess. Because it sure is dedicating a long time to showing off that Rick can't be made to do what people want. But But he didn't go on that spiel about how it doesn't matter if he dies because he'll wake up anyways when the pimps asked him where Morty was. Then Rick gets telekinetically thrown into various walls and a hole in the garage is created. He still speaks about himself confidently after this and remains determined. Unfortunately, someone lampshades him using a gibberish word. Oh, I thought Morty was going to give them the time travel stuff. Instead, he turns the box around, loyal to the end. But sadly, one of the aliens was looking at him. Wait a minute, just as I was wondering why Rick didn't just give them a fake box of time travel stuff, I started to wonder if the reason these aliens getting his time travel stuff won't have any consequences is that it's not really stuff that works. It's a decoy box. I have to wonder why the box was facing them in the first place though, because you think something as valuable and abusable as time travel stuff wouldn't have its name facing people. It would be turned around to begin with. Because that's just begging for Jerry to try to use it to, say, undo a mistake he did. Why didn't Jerry try to do that? I always figured the time travel stuff was just a bunch of parts that weren't put together, and since it's called stuff, not a time machine, so Jerry wouldn't know how to put it together. Rick just says it's definitely bad while smiling, instead of immediately telling us the truth. It makes sense that he can't just give them a box of time travel stuff right away, not only because he'd look like a coward in front of his family, but because the aliens would think it's too easy and realize it's not the real deal. Plus, at the very least, his family would whine about the fact that he gave something like time travel technology to a bunch of aliens just called bloodthirsty monsters. And Jerry would ask for the time travel technology too, because, well, if you're giving it to them, why not give it to me too? It would set a precedent. We see an alien king say that these aliens have saved their people. The king says they'll be able to undo all the terrible mistakes they've made as a society. Bad elections, ecosystem destroying commerce, bad healthcare system. He thinks they'll be able to end up as an elevated and thoughtful society and spread love throughout the universe. Huh? That sure is a nice and idealistic king. Like, for a guy who's completely all-powerful, he sure is not corrupt. What makes them think the mistakes wouldn't be made anyways, just because people would show up to the past and warn people not to make them? They'd just be ignored anyways. Maybe not even believed about it. The same people would be elected because there would be the same amount of people who would be blindly loyal to their particular political party and would vote for them regardless. And companies would still want to make money, so they'd hurt the ecosystem regardless. They open the box and see a hologram of Rick insulting them for taking his stuff, and then they all get blown up. Maybe it doesn't have that stuff in it and it literally just is a bomb. I would wonder why Rick doesn't make his portal gun have the same problem when someone takes it, but the most likely people to take his portal gun are the people he lives with. Then we see Summer glad that her show got cancelled because the character in it is literally saying fart joke. Why isn't she assuming that this is only one possibility and there's plenty of good versions of that season? She just picked the wrong universe. Also, it'd be more likely if the character was made to say fart joke because it was the writing being sarcastic and the writing wasn't trying to be funny. It was just, like, we're lazy. Because if the show really got bad, then it would actually show a fart joke and not have someone just say it. It seems more like a show is making fun of the fact that those jokes are being used in the first place by having some character say that. It'd make more sense that a character would say that because he doesn't have any other ideas for jokes, and so he just says that. My point is, we're not seeing nearly enough of her show to understand why she says it sucks now. Morty, meanwhile, is surprised to learn that this happens to Rick all the time. Wait, does that mean that Rick erases memory of the other times that happened? Either that, or most of the time aliens expect to get time travel stuff from him. His family just happened to not be in the house at the time. I guess it makes sense that he did that to him and his family every time, because it would prevent them from remembering him saying that they're replaceable and suffering the consequences. And I've seen in Morty's Mind Blowers that he can erase and store memories. Rick says that people are always coming here looking for a science gadget, and usually it's the time travel stuff. In which case, it's kind of good that he became famous for making that, because it's the one thing people are always looking for. It draws attention away from all the other potential stuff that could be stolen. So maybe that's the reason he made it. Because if he can ensure that people are always looking for one particular thing, then he won't have to worry about a whole bunch of other gadgets being stolen that he actually cares about. Which is good because the stuff he cares about, he's way more likely to actually use, as opposed to it just sitting around. Why isn't Morty asking why he doesn't remember this happening before? I guess he knows why and is just being polite. It's easy for him to assume that if he has a mad scientist for Grandpa, he's erasing his memories. Rick reveals that any of his actual time travel stuff is kept hidden in Morty's underwear drawer. That's even smarter. Except, he shouldn't tell Morty where he's hiding the actual time travel stuff, because he's just risking him going to look for it. I guess he erased Morty's memory after this. This story was about some aliens trying to steal the time travel stuff from Rick by threatening him and his family. You'd think one of them would just go for the garage right away and the plot would have been over a lot faster. So the reason the story took so long was because the point was to show how badass Rick really is. It's just about Rick telling them at length that they can't make him do something he doesn't want to do. And they throw him telekinetically through a wall, somehow not killing or visibly injuring him with that, and find a fake box of time travel stuff that really has a bomb in it. I guess Rick has the box or bomb specifically programmed so that it only goes off if it's brought too far away from his house, and touched by people who aren't part of his family, because otherwise it would blow up if Jerry or Morty touched it, which you'd think would be inevitable. How would they resist the temptation to use a box called time travel stuff? It was brilliant that the issue was a subversion. It started out seeming to be another interdimensional cable story where I kinda have to force myself to talk about it because all the shows are about unfamiliar characters. But then it went in a different direction. Though I'm still wondering how they found Rick from him happening to tune into their TV channel. How'd they know? Rick didn't hear an alarm go off that would alert them. How long were they sitting there hoping he'd tune into their channel? Are they paid to sit there all day? I mean, they didn't have a Game Boy in front of them. If they know about Rick to the point of knowing his full name, why didn't they know where he lived and just warp there? They have warp technology with a portal resembling Rick's portals. I guess they beat up a Rick to get it. You'd think if space and time were part of the same fabric, they just have to make the portal become a wormhole to make it a time travel portal, changing it from warping them through space to warping them through space and time. But I guess altering the portal to be like that is much harder than it sounds.